So I've decided to run a half marathon. In fact, I've decided to run two. One in September and one in October. And they're only 3 weeks apart. And that would be crazy under normal circumstances. But I like to run, so I accept that I'm a little crazy. I thought it would be good to document it. I spent an insane amount of time watching ultramarathon documentaries to get me through my time on the treadmill. And I've gone down the rabbit hole of multiple documentaries around marathons. And one thing that they all have, or most have, I should say, is they almost all start with, well, I was a runner in high school. And I've always been an athlete. Or I've always been athletic. And they scan back to these beautiful photos of people running track and field, of people playing sports, playing football, playing soccer, etc., etc. You all know what a sport is. But rarely do you hear the story of a former fat kid who's running a half. And, spoiler, has randomly set a goal to run a full next year. But more on that. So, as a former fat kid, as a former fat adult who has been running for less than 3 years, this is going to be my story. And I look forward to having you along with me. It's a long journey. September and October are both very far and very close all at the same time. But nonetheless, I want to bring you along with me. My goal? To essentially make 3 short movies for you this year, all about the journey. So, winter, being this one, is going to be a little mix of what winter training looks like for me in the Canadian tundra of Montreal, but also a reflection on who I am, who I was growing up, and how the last 3 to 5 years have changed my life. So sit back, relax, judge away, and hopefully you find a little inspiration in this message and in this movie. When I look back at this person, I don't recognize her. And that's not because there has been an immense amount of physical change between her then and me now, but more so because when I look at her, I see just how unhappy I was. I hated my body. I hated how it made me feel, how limiting it was. And that unhappiness just oozed from me, and it hurts because I know the mental pain I was in all of these videos. And I hid it behind pretending that I was good. I hid it behind trying to motivate other people. And it made me so unhappy. I wasn't myself. I wasn't who I wanted to be. But I just didn't know how to make that change. And that took me years to get there. When I call myself a former fat kid, it's not self-deprecating. It's just an honest fact, and it's how I see myself. It's something that I've worked on to accept, but I've also worked on to let go. I remember my mom telling me a story of how she brought me to see my pediatrician when I was probably, 14-ish months, definitely a little over a year. And I will preface this by saying it was the early 80s. So some of you were not even born then, and some will understand. But I remember, again, the story of her asking the doctor, why wasn't I walking yet? And his response was, with how big she is, I'm surprised she just doesn't roll. And again, 80s people. And this was a story that was told for years, like repeatedly. And everyone would laugh, even me, until I honestly understood the impact of all of those years of excuses for my size. Like, I was the big boned kid. Like, I had birthing hips, and again, weird 80s. Or I was tall for my age, but no one ever really said how large I was for my age. And when I look back at those photos, it's really hard not to see the birth of those unhealthy eating habits that honestly shaped who I was and led me to being well over 200 pounds by my 18th birthday. I have memories, very clear ones, of dumping what was probably 3 to 4 heaping teaspoons of sugar in my milk in my Fruit Loops every day. Or that I would ask for and be fed mayo on toast. And if you've looked up the calories of mayo, you can do the math there. And every Friday, splitting a large pizza with my sister and eating French fries and enough candy on the weekend that it would make me sick. And all of those things added to me hitting, at my highest weight, 250 pounds. And I'll be honest, it wasn't until I was 39 or 40, and I am 44 now, I had to think about it, that I really got the concept of portion control, or that I even decided to pay attention to it. And I can be honest that even now, there are days that I crave eating until I want to burst. But not because I'm hungry, but because eating like that for almost 4 years made me feel good. In May 2023, I decided enough's enough. I had spent 4 years yo-yoing from one quick fix to another. At some point, I threw myself into CrossFit because I believed that was going to solve everything. And when I got there, I was too fat and I was too out of shape to do anything fully. And honestly, everything had to be scaled. I couldn't do a box jump, I had to jump on a weight. I couldn't do a squat, I had to squat down onto a box. And at one horribly embarrassing moment, we were doing pull-ups with an elastic and I almost fell and smashed my head. So after a month, I quit. It was not for me. So I joined a new gym and I threw myself into that. I also signed up for a nutritionist, and combined, I would work out 7 days a week, 2 hours a day. Monday to Thursday was an absolute machine. I would lift heavy, and I would reluctantly do cardio because I hated cardio, and I would find myself doing the elliptical only because I had to. And I honestly was not feeding myself properly. And then Friday would arrive, and I would drink. I'm not proud of this, but between Friday night and Sunday, if not Monday, I could drink an entire bottle of gin. And it was perfectly normal for me to have 4, sometimes 5 gin and tonics in an evening, with the occasional cider thrown in during the day. And over those 3 days, I would absolutely destroy everything I had built during the week. I would lose 5 pounds during the week, and then I would gain 5 back on the weekend. And I would always find excuses to tell my nutritionist because there had to be a reason why I was gaining weight, and it couldn't be the alcohol. So back to May 2023, when I came back from a work trip, I decided that I needed help. And I reached out to a therapist because something wasn't right, it wasn't working, and I didn't feel well or myself at all. I decided I had to invest in myself while I was still healthy enough to do it. At this point, I was hovering around 260 pounds that I had regained through COVID and the whole spiel that comes with life around a global pandemic and all of the unhealthy things that came to light for myself through that process. So I chose to focus on not only my body, but my head. And somewhere along the way, I hopped on a treadmill out of necessity and not because I wanted to, trust me. And I started the Couch to 5K program. And I set myself a goal of running 5K. And somewhere deep down inside, this teeny tiny little spark was lit that turned into an absolute inferno that has allowed me in less than 3 years to drop 80 pounds and set my sights on a half marathon or 2.